the how to use a stored procedure transformation and how to create basically the shortcut and all. We did talk about that. Okay, so in the today's class, we'll concentrate more on how to again use the uh, how to again use the the create index procedure and analyze table and all those things. We'll just quickly finish it off, like how we can actually implement the analyze table procedure and all these things. Okay, so one moment please. How to use a procedure to create the indexes, so let's discuss on that. And if you remember, during our PL/SQL training, so basically we did understand about how to define a stored procedure for creating the indexes. So basically, if you remember, we have defined one metadata table called as a DB indexes. And whenever you add any index any index in a warehouse for any table, so basically we'll go and add it based on the table name, index name, and all those things in this table. This is like a metadata table, which you can call. So this DB indexes table we need to create, and we'll keep on adding. Whenever we add an index, we'll actually go and add into this DB indexes table. So likewise, we actually added indexes to be created for a fact sales table. So if you see, when I go and query this table in my target schema, so in your warehouse, you must create something kind of a table where I'm actually capturing the list of indexes to be created on my warehouse tables. So when I actually go back and check, so this is what, uh, let me just log in 1 second. Oops, 1 second. Let me log in again. So there was a network was not enabled. So let me log in again now. Yeah, now it's connected. So let's first understand how my DB indexes table is there and how I've actually defined the table. This is my DB indexes table. For a fact sales table, I know like what indexes have to be created and what column and everything. So if you remember the procedure, we have already defined a procedure. If I go and take a look at the packaged procedure, so this is basically, I want to take a look at the body of this procedure. So if I take a look at it, it is actually taking a table name as an input, and it is returning me the error message, what it is there. So if I go and take a look at it, so table name and then the error message, so it will get the indexes. So if you bring select star from DB indexes, so whatever the table name that you have, we are passing it, and then we are creating the index by using a dynamic SQL on this. In case if it returns an error, you're basically the index, it is returning you the error message back. So but without defining this DB indexes table, if there is no index, if there is a no record present for a particular table in this DB indexes table, you'll not be able to create it. So there is no metadata table or in Oracle level which actually uses the list of indexes after you drop them. That's the reason we actually maintaining this DB indexes table. Now I'll try to show you quickly how I can create how I can invoke the create procedure, create index mapping. So which will definitely do that. And now also, I mean, I'm going to follow the same approach, basically that I'm going to define it in the ODS underscore sales folder because it's a reusable component. I'm going to define it here and then I'll reuse that. So let me define a mapping now, so which I call it as m underscore create indexes. So it's more or less like you can use the same source and same target. Yesterday, whatever we have used a dummy source, and I'm going to use a parameter file target. So just drag and drop the dummy input. So we have a table name, what it is there, and we need to define the mapping parameter for it. So let me define a mapping parameter for passing the table name dynamically. So which I call it as tab name. Let's say this is going to be the parameter and it's a string of 100, which it is there. So now you click on OK. So this, it is going to be, you have the, I need to pull up that. So select dollar table name. So basically, let me just rename it. Okay, there is something wrong with the spelling. So from dual. So this is what you're actually fetching. Apply. So let me change my parameter name. So instead of this, I'll just use it as a tab name. Now you're actually bringing the table name, and that I have to pass to my create index procedure. So let me import the stored procedure by using the transformation tab. So when you get connected, so it will give you the list of list of procedures which are under this. So just get this create indexes procedure and import it. So now you have it. So I'm actually going by the connected way of stored procedure transformation rather than going for unconnected. So just pass the table name, and in case if it returns an error message, I have to stop my session. So for that, I need to use the error function and expression transformation. So use the expression transformation for handling the error message. So just click on create and then done. So error message is this. Now whenever an error message is not null, which means your stored procedure has returned an error, and I have to print that error message back to my session log. So to do that, now this is an input. I'm defining an output port, and I'm printing that error message back to my this one session log. So to do that, I'm using a if function here. If not is null of error message, then if it is null, so definitely I need to print a error saying that whatever the error that is, your stored procedure has returned an error. So I'll just append this message so that we can understand this error is actually returned from the stored procedure or something. So now I'm writing this message and then add this error message back to that. So in case if there is no error, just pass the same null value back to your parameter, your target file. So now we defined it. So this error message, whatever it returns, it will be printed as part of your parameter file. Now, what is your target? So your target is going to be error message. So just link it with this. So try to link this and save it. So what we have done, entire logic, whatever is there, you have defined it in the stored procedure level. There is nothing. What you're doing is you're just passing the table name here, and then it is creating the indexes, and at the same time, whenever error message is not null, so basically you're writing that error message to the session log and then doing it. So this is a session. Why I've actually defined in the shared folder, I repeat, because this is like a reusable thing. You can use it for any table, for dropping the index or creating the index. That is the reason I'm actually creating in the shared folder, so that I can create a shortcut for this mapping whenever I'm using in any other folder. So if I'm using in any other folder, like any normal folders, I can always create a shortcut for this and then reuse it. So let me go to it. Let's say my working folder. So my working folder is this one. So I will have to create a shortcut for this. I actually created my mapping in the ODS sales folder. So let me create a shortcut for this again with the same information. So now drag and drop. This is your working folder. Now I need to create a shortcut for mapping. So what you need to do is just drag and drop your mapping. So this is my, no, not this one. This is my mapping. So I'm actually keeping this folder as active. And when I drag and drop into my workspace, it actually gives me the shortcut to the mapping called as m_create indexes. Now, this is a shortcut which is created. You know that shortcut is not editable and it is just an instance to your original object. In case if you want to uh, modify it, you have to go and change the original object. Now I've created a mapping for it. So what I'll do is I'm saving it. I'll generate a session for this and then see whether it is creating the indexes. It will be able to create the indexes what we have defined in the DB indexes table. So when I go here, mapping, let's say generate workflow, I would like to create only the reusable session. I don't want to create a workflow. So I'm creating a reusable session. So what you do is dual table can be accessible from OLTP source or whatever. You can assign any connection. So just next, and you can define it and then finish. Now I have actually defined a session. So now go to the workflow and see your session whether it is already created as that drop indexes, create indexes. See, this is a create indexes session. So I need to provide a connection for a stored procedure also. So just go ahead and then add a connection. So this stored procedure is there in my target schema. So I have already compiled this in my target schema. So I'm using target_Karthik as my connection. So just apply and then click on OK. Now you have saved it. So I'll just use this session in the same workflow. I can have multiple sessions in the same workflow. So first session is basically dropping the indexes. Next one is actually creating the indexes. We'll understand the flow. For now, I'll just use the same workflow and then do it. So this procedure, this session is actually dropping it and this is recreating the indexes. All right. Now I need to pass the table name, that parameter from the parameter file. So how would I do that? So when I go here, let's say, let me try to define a parameter file. So run it. I'm logging into WinSCP to define the parameter file. Or you can use even the putty also. If you're comfortable with Unix, you can also do that. Anyway, we'll learn about all the Unix commands, whatever is there. So when you go with it, let's say you have a root folder. So U01 app info, let's say server, and then info shade, and you have source files. So let me take a look at the parameter file which we have defined yesterday. So it's actually with the name as edw something util, right? So this parameter file we have defined for this session. So can I have a parameters defined for a multiple sessions in the same parameter file? Yes, you can do that. It is not that you can define for one session one parameter file, not required. So I can have one more section for a new one more section for a new session what we have created. So let me check this option as well. So this is my session and I need to pass for this also I need to pass the table name. So let me enclose this also in your square brackets, and see when you're actually defining this parameter name should be same, otherwise it will not be able to determine. So it is actually $$ tab name. So I'll try to use the same thing here. So $$ tab name equal to, so I want to even create the indexes for a same table. So I'll just passing directly the input as a fact_sales. So save it. Now you need to pass the same path, whatever the path and the parameter file name, so that this session also can read the table name from it. So what is a path? So this is a path what we are passing. So similarly for this session also you need to provide a parameter file name. So just define it and apply the changes and click on OK. See, basically now there are no indexes which are available. Even though if I run it, it's just a dummy thing. There are no indexes. Your procedure will get executed in a normal way. I mean, it doesn't return any indexes. So let me run the complete workflow. So when I start the workflow, basically first it will try to drop the indexes where you do not have any indexes. Then my create index procedure will get triggered. So which eventually has to create the indexes. So if you see, my create index procedure is actually triggered, and it should have created the indexes on now on the fact sales table. So let me go back and then understand this fact sales table, how it is. So, and go to the indexes and see there are indexes which are there again. So if you remember yesterday, we actually dropped the indexes, right? So those indexes have been dropped. Now if you see the indexes again back created. See, basically here you might be a little confused. You're dropping the index and you're creating the index. What is the use of this utility basically? See, in general, what happens is that whenever you're designing a workflow for a fact load, this is the flow that we follow. I'm not sure whether I have actually discussed this. Okay, so first we'll try to drop the indexes on the table, because keeping the indexes and loading the data is not possible. You cannot actually use a bulk mode and then do it. So first we'll drop the indexes, then we will have an actual session which will load the data. Let's say now I have a session which is loading the data into fact sales table. We will load the data. Then we will recreate the indexes. What is the need of recreating the indexes? So basically it will enable you to retrieve the data faster. Whenever your BI tool actually hits your warehouse, it can retrieve the data faster. So that is one, create indexes. And another, at last, you'll have one more session which it is called as a analyze table. So analyze table, whichever it is, so it is going to be used. So this is how you can actually define a particular workflow, and this way it can be achieved. So this is a reason. First we understand how to drop the index, and we understand how to create the index, and the next one is about how to analyze the tables. That's also we'll discuss, and what is the use of it. So you can probably understand what is the need of analyzing a fact table, or what is the need of analyzing the table. It's basically, as I said in previous classes also, it will actually collect the statistics and store. Whenever you actually go and hit the database, I mean query it, it will choose us the best optimal plan to do that. So this is how we can uh, prepare a general workflow whenever you are designing a workflow for a particular fact table. So this many sessions will be there. So these are all like a reusable: drop indexes, create indexes, analyze table. We don't define individual sessions for one workflow or a one fact load. These are all reusable. That is the reason I'm actually defining them in the your ODS sales folder, because it's like a which can be used or which can be reusable. So when you are actually practicing it, you can directly create in your folder. Don't try to create in the ODS sales, because I don't think you have actually the permission also to create. You can directly create in your folder directly whatever is there without using the shortcut whatever it is available. And the question is like, why can't we load the normal mode? See, inserting one record, one by one records, let's say if you have a 10 million records, I have to write 10 million inserts to do that. If you are using a bulk mode, basically the group of records will be inserted. So maybe for every 10,000 records, we'll make one bulk insert. So which eventually reduces your amount of time. So it's always preferable to use the bulk mode, not the normal mode, when you're loading the data from Informatica. All right. So that's the reason we use a bulk mode, not the normal mode. So this is more about your drop indexes and the create indexes procedure, how you can actually define that. And the next one, which I'll show you for today, is about the analyzing the tables. We'll also see that quickly. How can I actually analyze a table? So it's more or less the similar thing. I'm actually defining a mapping for it. So m underscore analyze table. So whatever the mapping that you're defining. So you can use the same source and the target, because all your stored procedures are taking the table name, not anything else. So not this, my working folder is this. Okay, let me just pull up the dummy input. So just drag and drop. And now let's say you have it as a target and import the stored procedure. See, basically now analyze stored procedure is not a public one. You've actually defined that only in the in PLSQL package body. It is not there in the spec. So if you try to see that, you'll not be able to see this procedure when you try to import, because it is not a public, it is a private procedure. So I'm actually making it as a public. So analyze stored procedure. So let me just compile it as well. So now it is compiled, and at the same time let me also compile this also. Now your analyze table is also a public one, which it is taking a table name and then the returning the error message. So let me import the stored procedure, and now you'll be able to see the analyze table as well. So just use it and pass the table name here, and error message. So as usual, it's just a normal thing. Basically, instead of recreating, I can even copy paste. It's the same thing, right? So nothing else. I can copy paste the procedure, I mean transformation. Now I'll just paste it over here and then connect it. It's the same error message, same thing. Just connect to it and then pass that error message. So just save it. This is also the connected mode of this one. Now I have an analyze table which is there. So let me create a shortcut, usual way. Now I need to create a shortcut back to my April 2015 9:30 p.m. EST folder. So let me just drag and drop by keeping that folder as an active. So this is an analyze table, just drag and drop. So it will create a shortcut. And for that shortcut, let me create a session and then keep that session as part of my workflow to do that. So let me try to do that now. So you'll have a analyze table thing. So save it. Your shortcut is created. Now it's valid. So let me generate a session for it. So generate the workflow. I would like to create only the reusable session. So click on next. Let's say this is OLTP source, and click on next and then finish. In order to refresh the metadata, so you need to disconnect and reconnect it to refresh the metadata properly in the workflow manager level. And let me open it, and we have a workflows. So let's say I have analyze table session. All right, so let me provide a connection for it, shortcut for analyzing the tables. So, and now this is what it is there. Procedure or a packaged procedure is there in my target schema, so which is going to be target underscore Karthik. So which assign that, apply and click on OK. Save it. Now it is your analyze table thing. So just drag and drop that analyze table part here and connect it. So to cross check whether my table is actually analyzed or not, you can go and refer the data dictionary. I'll show you. So how can we make sure that your procedure is actually properly working or not? Okay. So let me go back to my parameter file. Here also I'll define this. So one thing here is that we didn't create a parameter for your analyze table. If you remember, I forgot to create that. You don't have a parameter here. I cannot pass if you do not have a parameter. So let me just use the same name, dollar tab name. So which is going to be the parameter, let's say string of 100. So just click on OK and then save it. Now there is a dependent objects which has been modified. So let's try to use, I want to analyze the same fact table. So just use same name, define it, and I need to pass this same parameter file path even for my analyze table also. So when I go here, so let's say let me pass this for a analyze table. So just apply and click on OK. See, and now do that. So basically if I run it, it'll first drop the index and recreate the index and analyze it. So I don't want to run all the session. I want to run only this session. How can I do that? Right click on it, use start task. If I say start task, it will run only this task. It will not run the dependent task. If I say start workflow from task, this is a one. So start task. and go here. Now it is failed. So let's check that. What is the reason? Okay. And table or view does not exist. Okay. What is the problem with this? We didn't actually modify our source qualifier query. It is actually reading the table name directly from your dummy input. So that is a problem. So let me go back here and change my procedure. I mean my source qualifier query. It's basically we need to pull the table name by using this. So dollar dollar table name from basically from dual. So just click on OK, save it, and you do save it, and you need to refresh the mapping basically for a change in this. You need to refresh the mapping and save it. See, whatever the query that you write, you can see that query even at the session level also. I'm not sure whether you observed it. So this is a query. Earlier, it was like from dummy table. Now I just changed it. You can see that query as well, whatever you have written. So let's try to do this again. So start the task. Now this time it succeeded. So that means it was able to analyze it. You'd like to check the query, how it is modified and all. What? See, it is using the table name as a fact sales. And if you go back and check your, it has become a select fact sales from dual, and then it has analyzed it. See, basically it has analyzed it. What is a proof that my stored procedure has actually analyzed it? How can I actually verify that? If you want to find out whether your table, when is your last, when is your table analyzed last time? So basically you can uh, check this user underscore tables. And in the user underscore tables itself, there will be a column called as last analyzed date. So this is what it is. So if you want to know when this table is actually analyzed the last time, you can easily understand. I don't know which table it is. Yeah. So if you see today it is analyzed. So if you check this fact sales, and if you go back and see, this is analyzed at 21st May 2015 703. This is what is the time you have actually analyzed from the procedure. So you can always capture, I mean, this is basically you're analyzing it is to just to improve your execution plan whenever you query the database or whenever you query the table. That is only the reason that we are analyzing it. It is more do that. So that is pretty much about your stored procedure transformation, how you create for a, how you actually do that for a dropping index, creating index, and analyzing tables and all those things. So that's pretty much about the stored procedure transformation. So all right, so these procedures we are going to reuse them. We have a pre and post load to do the same task. So what is the advantage of drop and create index utility? All right, see, it is a very good question. So you have a source level pre-SQL and post-SQL, and target level pre-SQL and post-SQL to do the same activity. All right. So what is the advantage if you're actually defining the, what is the advantage if you're actually defining the procedure or these utilities? See, if I have to actually create the indexes using a pre-SQL and all, I have to hard code my index names, create index 1, create index 2, create index 3 and all. And when I have to drop the index, I have to use the hard coded names drop index 1, drop index 2, drop index 3. Let's say today on a fact sales table, I have 3 indexes. I have actually defined my mapping and I have actually moved that mapping to the production. So because of the slowness in the reports, later on during the support, your support team has actually created few more indexes on the table. What should happen? Now you need to go back to your mapping and then modify your pre-SQL and post-SQL. So which is a tedious task, right? So every time there is a new index which is introduced, you're actually basically adding that. You're basically recreating all the indexes and then modifying all your mappings, which is not a proper way of design. So if you're actually designing the procedures to handle that activity, it's always, it's a dynamically it is dropping in the indexes and dynamically it is creating. You don't need to change your mapping. If you push that mapping to the production, I don't need to do any maintenance activity or something. Whenever there is a new index which has been created, what I'm asking is you go and create your index name in this before you create the index. So that will take care of my complete mechanism to drop and recreate. You don't need to actually modify your mapping. If I have actually using these mappings for, let's say, some 10 fact tables, 10 mappings you have to go and edit whenever there is a change in the index plan. So that is the reason we don't use a pre-SQL and post-SQL most of the time to drop the index and recreate it. Rather, we use a utilities like this. We'll define a separate utilities for handling this. All right. So, okay. So we are importing all the procedures individually and working in the design, but we have the procedures in the package. Is there a way we can import the package into design and work all at a time? No. You can import, see, your stored procedure can invoke only one object at a time. It cannot import packaged objects, right? So definitely you have to import one at a time and then use it. So stored procedure transformation, using stored procedure transformation, I cannot invoke 10 procedures at a time. That is not possible. I can invoke only one procedure at a time. So whenever you import that also, it will show you only one object. So if you want to import multiple procedures at a time, that you can do it. So just like this, you can just import it. It will create 4 stored procedure transformations. That's it. That's how it works. So if you want only one by one, yes, you need to do one by one, whatever it is. So that's the way you need to go about the stored procedures and these things. All right. Yeah. So there is another stored procedure which is actually required, but I'll tell you at this point of time. Probably when you go to the incremental loads and all, we'll understand. In the today's class, we have some more time. Basically, let's take a look at any other example which we can quickly finish in another 20 minutes. Mm, that's pretty much on the stored procedure transformation, why we use it. So I've shown you all the possible ways of using the dynamic SQL and the stored procedure. So concentrate on the PLSQL part as well, or understand the procedure. Forget about what database that you're using. So anywhere you can just go and implement the same thing. So we are actually left with a few things here. We cannot start with the slowly changing dimensions now, so probably tomorrow we'll just start with it. And there are a few things which we need to understand. Just like a shortcut, there are some other features which you need to understand in the designer level or in the informatica level. So called as a versioning. So we haven't talked about the versioning actually. So if you heard about the tools like VSS, CVS, SVN, Tata East, all these are all like a build technologies, versioning tools. What does these tools does is, whenever you want to keep track of changes, suppose let's say there is a program and that program is actually changing from version to version. In the sense, today I'll define one program, tomorrow I'll actually modify the same program, and day after tomorrow with the changes I'll again modify the same program. So if you are not maintaining the previous versions, what will happen is that you're always overwriting the same version. You're actually losing all your changes, whatever you have done it. All right. So to maintain the versions, so we'll actually use these tools, CVS, SVN, and you have a Tata Ace, and these are all the tools which we actually use for a build technology or a versioning. So even in Informatica also we have a similar concept called as a versioning, but we cannot integrate Informatica with the third-party technologies like this. I cannot integrate Informatica with CVS for just maintaining my objects versions. Okay, so Informatica comes up with the inbuilt versioning mechanism. So if you see, there is a tab separately called as a versioning. Okay, so what it does is, when you're actually creating a repository, that time itself you can select, do you want to go for a version repository or a non-version repository? If you're going for a version repository, basically you can keep track of all the changes what are happening. So how the versioning tools works is, there is something called as some terminology which you need to know, called as a check-in, checkout, and then let's say you call the terminology called as a undo checkout, and then there is something called as a, yeah, these are the basic things that you need to know. Check in, check out, and then undo checkout. Let's say view history, view history, and all these are all the terminology that you need to know. See, anytime you create a new object in the mapping, so basically anytime you create a new object in the mapping, if you go and check it, there is a tick mark symbol which is next to it. Anytime if any object, whatever it may be, whether it is a source or a target, so this is a tick mark which is already available. So what does that means it is actually still in the checked out status. You have not saved that object permanently into the repository database. See, most of you are already started developing the programs and everything. You have created a lot of objects. See, if I go and check in this folder, let's say Anuradha's folder, she might have created so many objects. But if I go and check this, even though I'm an administrator, I'll not be able to see any of the objects. See, I'm not able to see any of the mappings, anything. What is the reason is that unless you check in an object, your object is not visible to the other users. So when I check in my object, even if you go and check in my April 2015 my folder, you'll not be able to see any objects because I have never checked in any object. So that object is visible only when, if you check in the object, that then only it will be available to the other users. Suppose now, let's say if I am checking in this object, right click on it, versioning, let's say check in. So how to check in an object? Right click, versioning, check in. So you have to enter comments whenever it is there. So initial check-in, so just pass this. Now what will happen, any user, whoever logs in, they will be able to see this mapping which I have created. So by default, every user will have a read access to all the folders. Every user will have a read access. Now let me just log in with Karthik for username. So now basically I'm not using an administrator user. So if I log in with Karthik user, so I should be able to see the object which I have actually checked in. So let's go and take a look at it. How many objects I'll be able to see that? I'm able to see only one mapping, that is also this. See here, if you check it, it is just showing you only the source qualifier and then the expression. Why it is not showing the source and the target? Basically you need to check in even every individual object that you're going to create. You need to first check in the source, you need to first check in the target, and you need to check in the mapping session workflow individually. It is not that if I'm checking in a mapping, my dependent objects also will be checked in. That way it will not work. You have to check in each and every individual object at the each level. So unless you check in an object, you'll not be able to see, I mean other users may not be able to see that. And that is one way. Whenever you want the other users to take a look at your object, first you have to check in an object. All right, so that's what which it is there. So when I go to this April 2015 9:30 p.m., let's say whenever you, sorry, I think I logged in with again with a Karthik user. I think I have to go ahead with a administrator user. So let me log in back again. So suppose there is a administrator, let's say, so if I go here, let's say April 2015 9:30 p.m. EST, once you check in an object, will I be able to modify that object? No. Suppose this is M underscore ODS employee, I'll not be able to do anything unless you check out an object. See, even though you have created it, whenever you want to edit an object, first you have to check out an object. So how do you check out? Just right click on it, versioning, and then check out what it is there. So this is the one. Let's say I'm actually changing something here from O underscore name to name, which is what I'm actually changing. Some change which I'm actually making to this expression transformation. So just apply and click on OK. Now let's try to save this again. I mean, let's try to check in this again. Every time you check in an object, it will create one version. Okay, so modified the expression. So modified the expression, so which it is there. So just right click on it, versioning, view history. and you compare the selected versions. So if you see, let's say 1 and 2 and the mappings, and you have the instances, you can even compare the instances like where there is a change, and see here the name column is being modified. So you can observe the change, how it appears, how it is being modified and all. You can compare all the versions. So every time you make a check-in, one version will be created. So how can I see the multiple versions here? Versioning and then view history. That way you can do that. Suppose let's say if I'm again checking out, do the undo checkout, and you modified something, and basically you have deleted something, applied the change and then saved it. You have saved it, you've deleted something and you saved it. Let's say I want to undo all the changes. Right click on it, versioning, and then do undo checkout. It will always take you back to the previous version. So this is called as a undo checkout option. How it works? So basically one thing that you have to remember with the check-in checkout mechanism is that always individual objects also have to be checked in. I need to check in an object source, I need to check in a target, I need to check in a mapping, maplet, transformation. You need to check in a session, workflow, everything should be checked in. Then only those changes will be available to your users. So suppose let's say if I want to check in everything at a time, I've created so many objects, I want to check in at a time. So go to versioning, find all the checkouts and selected folder and by the current user. So just click on OK. It will give you all the objects so far whatever I have created. These are all the objects which I have created. If I want to check in all the things at a time, so just select each one of them, right click on it, check in. Let's say I want to go ahead with all the initial check-in. So just do that, apply to all. Done. Now everything is being checked in. So everything is readable here. So you cannot modify anything here. So now this is what it is. When you want to modify, again you need to check out and then do that. So even here also it works in the same way. If I have to, even at the session level, if I have to do all of them at a time. So now see it, check in. So okay, let's say apply to all. So it will check in everything. And if I have to check in even for other folder, let me just check out. See, since I'm actually checking in all the objects now, you'll be able to see what are all the objects that I've actually created. Okay, you'll be able to see what are all the objects that I've created in the ODS sales folder, and ODS sales folder, as well as the other folders whichever is there. You'll be able to see if there are any objects which are already checked in. Now let's say this is it. So let me check in all these changes as well so that it will be available for all the users. See, now since I'm actually checked in all these objects, if you are comfortable that you know how to use the stored procedure transformation, now you don't need to basically define all these procedures one more time. You can just reuse a shortcut. You can just create a shortcut to your folder and then reuse that mapping. So that's how you can do that. So this is pretty much about it. And one more thing is that can two users work on the same object at the same time? No. If one user checks out the object, it will not allow the other user to check out the same object. It says that okay, that user is already checked out, you cannot use it. So let me show you practically this one. See, let's say for this folder, Karthik user has the privilege and the administrator user has a privilege. Now I'm checking out m_ods product. Let me log in with Karthik user now. So go here. Let's say this is a one and connect to it. If I go to the same folder, and now Karthik user also wanted to work on the same mapping. Now just go here. Let's say try to check out this object. Versioning, checkout. What it says? m_ods product was not checked out since the object is already checked out. So it will not be, two users cannot work on the same object at the same time. So it will not allow you to do that. So this is about a versioning. If you want to compare the previous version, check in, check out, view history, all those things, these are all the options which you can actually do that and verify. So this is pretty much about the versioning concept in Informatica. It cannot be integrated with any versioning tools as such, but you can enable the inbuilt versioning in this. Is it possible to see the previous version of object? I think I already show you that how to do that. So if you want to see the previous version, so just go to versioning and then view history. Now I want to open the previous version of object in my workspace. How would I do that? Right click on it and open in the workspace. It will open the previous version. This is a version 1 and you have a version 2. This is actual version 1 and version 2. You can see that. That's still possible in using that. So this is more about your more about a versioning mechanism and all those, how we can enable it, the versioning mechanism. So tomorrow we'll just start with slowly changing dimensions and then the fact loads and the different types of tasks that you are going to use. And this part we have checked it. So this only took us almost 1 week for understanding how the stored procedure transformation can be invoked from the Informatica. All right. So that's pretty much I have for the day. And in case, can I check out a previous version? No, that is not possible. You can always check out a latest version. So if you want to override the previous version with the current version, the way is export and import. You cannot check out a previous version. It is not allow you. It doesn't have so much flexibility here. When you go for a versioning, it's you can call it as minimal changes. I mean, not like your all built technologies. It doesn't allow you to do that, but it's a minimal level of versioning can be identified using this. I mean, can be maintained using this. All right.
Karthik.
Yes, please.
Karthik, Suresh here. One question. In real time, like how the objects are baselined, like there will be scripts and that will be copying from UAT region to production.
Yeah, we'll understand about it. There is how the migration will happen. We already have a separate task for it. We'll discuss
that. Okay, Karthik. And Karthik, Karthik, one more question. So, like, if it's like in a real time, like checkout options, right? Like it's something like once if in the same release, like if more than one person need to work on the same mapping, so how things will be working on? Like they will be checking in. Check in the object, like once they complete, only one person can work on an object now, or it's something like
once the one user has actually completed it, then they can actually start doing it. Okay. I mean, there is a concept even called as a labels also, but generally we don't use a labels. Actually, what happens is that label is nothing but for each and every release we can define one label. Okay. Release is like a label. Okay, Q1 release, Q2 release, Q3 release and all. Okay, so now let's say on the same object multiple developers have to work in. This is for a Q2 release and this is for a Q1 release. Just right click on it and just apply that object to that label. So I have some labels here. So let's say Q4 release is something that which I am assigning, and there is a Q1 release, it has to go to Q1 release. Okay, now when I'm actually migrating, if I use this label concept while migrating it, it will migrate only this version. It will not migrate this version.
Okay.
So that way you can actually maintain objects for the multiple versions. But in a data warehousing environment, so as it is so agile, you will not come across that kind of a scenarios where I have to develop a mapping and keep it, so it will get migrated somewhere after that. So this is like a agile mode. Most of the things move on. So as soon as you actually build it, that will be deployed to the production. That's it.
Okay.
May not come across such kind of scenarios, but even then, I mean, if you have it, you can still maintain that. Okay. Using in terms of a label. Label is like a release. So I can define multiple versions of any object and assign each version to one release. So when you're migrating it, only that version will get migrated.
Okay. It's something. Is there any concept like we cannot move this object to production if it is checked in by an user, or there is?
Cannot be moved. It cannot be moved in the sense there is a concept called as code freezing. I mean, You can actually keep
Okay.
entire repository as in the read-only mode. I mean, not in read-only mode,
Okay.
freezing mode in the sense no developer can log in. That way we can
Okay.
do that, but not at the object level. Object level, Informatica doesn't provide you to do that. As
Okay.
far as my knowledge, I don't think there is a way to block the object for the migration. I don't think, yes, it's not the case. Yeah, but you
Okay.
can freeze entire repository. I mean, I cannot allow, if you don't want to allow any user to do that, I mean, you can just quickly implement that. I mean, you have to freeze basically.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Yes, Anuradha. I mean, I'm just logging. Yeah, that's it I have. If you do not have any other questions, probably you can drop off. Yes, Anuradha, I'm actually logging into your folder. So you can probably unmute yourself and quickly describe the issue, what you're facing.
I have created that drop index one from the Informatica.
Okay.
But the error it is showing is it could not read the file.
Okay. Where did you create and how did you create a shortcut for this?
No, not this one. Not this one, the other one. Even this one also, it is succeeded. Actually, should not succeed for the ODS employee, right? But it is getting succeeded. I don't know why.
Okay. Let's go back to monitor and then check what is error. So this is this thing and ODS drop index. This is the latest one. So if I go and check the session log, it is basically, it is failed completely. So if you check this, this is okay. This is the one.
Yes, yes.
Which workflow in this is your actual?
It's drop m
This one.
underscore drop index.
Okay. So let me go and check the session log. Okay, it is not, it is picking a table name ODS employee, that's fine. And if you go by the severity, what target connection you have created or target connection you have used? Did you compile the procedure here in your target schema? Did you create the procedure?
Yes, yes. But I think that is the problem in whenever there is also when I'm trying to drop it is not, it is showing still in my SQL.
Is which procedure you're actually using?
I tried 2 times, both the times it got succeeded.
No, I'm just checking. Okay, what is the target is drop index is output, right? Okay, let me just go back to target files and sort it based on the name. Drop index dot out. Okay, it doesn't have anything. That means it should be there. So let me just try to do that. All underscore indexes and owner equal to and table name equal to ODS underscore employee. Okay, it's a still is there, it's an unique index and it is not. Yes, it should throw the error, but what is the problem? If not is null of this error message, that's what you're doing. Okay, let me log into your stored procedure. what procedure you have defined. And let's say you have this is a drop index SQL ERRM. Okay, let's check it from here. I'll just pass the ODS underscore employee. Just click on OK. Go back. Yes, your procedure is actually returning error. This error you should get it, but it is not visible on your mapping. So now this is the STP underscore drop index, but this is not different. Okay, STP drop index properties. Okay, it is pointing to drop index. And what is the session corresponds to this? So it is picking up $$ table name. Okay, what is it doing? ODS underscore employee. How is it going? Select ODS employee from dual. Okay, it is going correctly. Affected is fine. Okay, what is the session that you have created for this? I want to check that also. So let's say S underscore, this is a session.
Yes.
Okay, let me take a look at the mapping. Mapping name is M underscore drop index. M underscore drop index. Okay, that's fine. And take a look at this one. Okay, this is $target. And this one is OLTP source. Okay, this is a reusable session. And if I go here, just use revert, you have to assign the connection. That is your target underscore Anuradha. Like, just apply, save it. Now, what is the workflow that which it is using it? This is a workflow, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Why again you are using shortcut? This is not the one which you are using. Okay. This procedure name is S underscore shortcut? No?
No. This one, the other one.
Which one? This is not the index which it is supposed to be used. I mean,
you click on task developer.
Okay.
Yes, this one.
It should be used, right? In your workflow. Your workflow should use this. That's what I'm assigning here. Save it. Now I need to pass the parameter to this. I'm just passing the parameter what you have defined. So it is in the drop employee test param. Save this. When I go here, let's say the source files. Let me check what you have actually defined here. Drop emp test.prm. Okay, this is the session name. S underscore M drop index. Okay, now let's run this. Yes, it is failed now. Okay, so now go and check. Okay, ODS underscore employee is an invalid identifier. All right, so what is the question is like now, there in the source qualifier, you're not passing a parameter single quotes. That's what it is failing. So I'm passing the single quote here.
Okay.
So let me try to rerun this now. Restart the workflow. This is okay. This is succeeded. That's fine. Okay, let me go ahead and then check the session log here. Sorted by the severity. Okay. All right. So let's go back here. And when I say this config object, did you select this option stop on errors to 1? Apply. Click on OK. Let me rerun the job again and see. Oops. ODS error message is a flat file. Not is null of error message dot process. It's returned an error and then do this. Okay, I'll take a look at it. I mean, I'll ask the team to look at it. There might be some silly thing which you might be missing here. We'll correct it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.